Welcome to part 3 of our social study class on drug abuse. We've taken part 1, part 2. Today we are taking part 3. Please, if you've not watched the part 1 and part 2 of drug abuse, go back and watch it. It's a Js2 class. Please go back and watch it. Today we are going to see the consequences of drug abuse. We have seen the causes of drug abuse. Now, what is the consequences that comes as a result of drug abuse? I've itemized 10 consequences. I will list them and will try to explain them one after the other. 1. Mental disorder. 2. Poor attitude to work. 3. Poverty and debt. 4. Armed robbery, stealing, fraud, and the rest. 5. School dropout. 6. Debts, leads to debt. 7. Excessive dependency on drugs. 8. Leads to various diseases. 9. Reduces workforce of a nation. And then the 10. Social outcasts. Let me go over them again. 1. Mental disorder. Poor attitude to work. Poverty and debt. Armed robbery, stealing, fraud, and other crimes. School dropout. Debt. Excessive dependency on drugs. Leads to various diseases. Reduce the workforce of a nation. Social outcasts. These are the consequences of drug abuse. Now let's try to discuss them one after the other. Drug abuse leads to mental disorder. Do you believe that? Of course. Because one who abuses drugs and it has adverse effects on his or her health, before you know it, the person is not emotionally stable. Before you know it, the person becomes mentally unstable. And then, before you know it, it leads to insanity. You see, most youths, most young persons, because of their overindulgence in drugs, they become mad on the streets. They become insane individuals. They no longer think well. They become mentally derailed because of drugs. Because it has great effect in their health. The body cannot take it, the brain cannot coordinate it anymore, and then the person goes haywire. So that's one. Poor attitudes to work. Some persons are so dependent on drugs, they are so addictive to drugs that if they don't take drugs, they cannot perform to their optimum. So when they come to work and they are not on drugs, they don't perform well at work. Even in school, they will not be able to perform well. They'll have poor attitudes to school activities. But the moment they take drugs, they perform well. So, it leads to poor attitudes to work. If they don't have money to take drugs, their work habits become so bad that you would not just be impressed about what they are doing. Then poverty and debt. If you've seen a drug addict, you know a drug addict can sell whatever property he has in order to take drugs. Some persons are so addicted to drugs that if they don't have the money to buy drugs, they sell their personal belongings. Things they have worked so hard to earn, they just sell it cheap because they make sure they want to take that drug. They are so addicted to it. Before you know it, no money in their pocket. Before you know it, they go into debt. They start buying on credit. They start borrowing money from friends and family, acquaintances, workmates, schoolmates, in order to satisfy their urge for drug addiction. It leads them to poverty. Armed robbery, stealing, fraud, another crime. Those drug addicts' lifestyle is so complicated, so frustrating, that if they don't have a job to keep their addiction, they go into different vices, different criminal activities. They can go into stealing, robbery, burglary, anything at all that can put money on the table to make them feel their addiction, they will do it. So it increases the vice, the criminal activities in the neighborhood, in the environment, in the nation, because they want to feel the need of their addiction. School dropout. People who are young, teenagers who are of school age that are drug addicts, drop out of school. You can't be in school, your parents are firing for you or your guardians are firing for you, and you become a drug addict. Who pays for the addiction? So because they want to satisfy their pleasure of addiction, they leave school, they drop out of school to go do menial jobs. Anything that can fill the need, anything that can put money on the table to satisfy their addiction, they want to do it. And then before you know it, they are out of school and they become nuisance tomorrow. Alright? Death. People have taken drugs. Excessive usage of drugs damages the organs, damages the system, stress up the system. And before you know it, the person's, they start having major organ problem, major life challenges, and then it can lead to death. It leads to lung cancers, different ailments of different type, which can be a fast way to the grave. So it leads to death because of their addictive lifestyle. Then excessive dependence on drugs. Without it, they don't live. Without it, they can't function. Without it, they are aggressive. Without it, they are mentally unstable. So their life depends on the drug to live. They become so dependent on drugs that nothing goes without the drugs. Nothing stands without the drugs. Addictive lifestyle leads to various diseases, like I've said in this number 6 of health. Different diseases like lung cancers, high blood pressure, stroke, uncured cough, tuberculosis, because they have affected the body so much. The body is worn out. The system cannot function at its optimal. The system cannot function well because you have destabilized the system by use of drugs. You come up with these meds today, tomorrow. That's why you say cigarette companies tells you smokers are liable to die young, because there are complications that may come along the line. There are complications that will come along the way. And so when these complications are not properly handled and the person do not desist from taking drugs, they surface. And when they surface, you start battling it. And before you know it, it's either you battle and win and leave the habit, or you battle and go to the grave. Either of the two. Then reduce workforce. The youths that are supposed to be the active workforce of the nation, once that individual relapse to drugs, become a school dropout, have poor attitudes to work, the person is not tedious, it's not industrious again. He's not among the workforce again. He becomes a nuisance. He becomes an armed robber, he becomes a fraudster. And so they can't count the individual among the workforce that is productive in the nation. And it becomes a big problem. Then social outcast. Do you have somebody close to you that is a drug addict? You see, the society does not look at that person in a favorable way. What you say doesn't matter to people. They look at you as mentally derailed person, insane person. The society does not respect the personality of the individual. Because of what? The individual have already spoiled the name he has. He has no goodwill before people because of his lifestyle. The society does not look at the person in a favorable way. You are not regarded. You can't be called to leadership. You can't be called to work in responsible places. You are not looked at as a mentally stable person. You are just looked at like an outcast. So the society look at the individual as not responsible, an outcast to the society, a waste to the nation, a waste to the environment, a waste to the environment he or she finds herself. So these are the consequences of drug abuse: mental disorder, poor attitude to work, poverty and debt, armed robbery and other crimes, school dropout, death, excessive dependence on drugs leads to different diseases, reduced workforce, social outcasts. These are what the individual gets because he eats drug. It is wrong to be a drug addict. Are you a young person out there? Please don't expose yourself to drugs. And if your friends expose you to drugs, tell them you are too smart to do drug. Tell them drug cannot lead you to anywhere. Be your own redemption. Stay away from drugs. It won't help us. We see many persons out there that are drug addicts. Nobody look at them as responsible people. So, as responsible students, as responsible teenagers, as responsible individuals in their own level, please don't do drugs. It can lead to death. It can lead to social outcast. It can lead to debt and poverty. It can reduce your work ability. Your mental health can be in danger. Depression is on the increase. It can be a stepping stone to becoming depressed. So please, invest in yourself and invest in what is good about yourself. Look for things that motivate you, not things that will harm you. This is where we'll come to the end of our drug abuse class part 3. We'll take part 4 in our next episode. Subscribe if you've not subscribed. Give us a thumbs up if you like what we're doing. If you have questions, ask below the comment box. Thank you for being in our community. Until I come your way when we see in part 4 of drug abuse. Thank you so very much.